Hello, it's Eddie. I know this is not the traditional intro to our podcast, but we actually did something really fun. We performed our intro at the Monday Scaries show in downtown Orlando. So what you're going to hear is that performance, about 10 minutes. It's like our normal intro band. We had a great interview this week with Kelly Semrad. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then the actual interview. The recording quality is not what I would like, but you know what? In life, you can't have everything you want. Isn't that right, Steph?
That's true.
Also, I felt like the audience maybe turned against me a little bit. Do you think that was fair or unfair?
Well, you may have deserved it.
We'll let you all be the judge, but no, we had a lot of fun and we all had a good time. It was a cool experience, and we're going to keep trying different interesting ways to connect with audiences. So who knows when Extracurricular will do its next live show. So here's Extracurricular at Monday Scaries, and then our interview with Kelly Semrad.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to Extracurricular. I am your co-host, Eddie Geller.
And I am your other co-host, Stephanie Vanas.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Is there anything you think folks should know relevant to this podcast that we bring up every time? Maybe you're an elected official of some sort. Is there something you'd like to share?
I am a school board member for Orange County Public Schools, District 6. But I am here unofficially today and every day.
You are always on this podcast unofficially, much to my chagrin, because I'm always trying to get you to make outrageous statements about the public schools, and you will refuse to do it on the record. All right, so for folks who are listening to this podcast, not necessarily the audience, because if you're in the audience, you know this, but if you're listening, you're like, this sounds more echoey than normal. And there are people clapping. So yes, if you're listening on the podcast, we are doing this pod live in front of an audience at Monday Scaries. Give a round of applause for Monday Scaries. This is a bit different for us. Steph, how are you feeling? Give the audience an update. How are you feeling right now? Sweating. So I have done lots of improv and comedy, some of it good. This is your first time in a performance space. You've done a lot of public speaking, but yeah, you're sweating. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So, as always, if you're listening, please do subscribe, rate us 5 stars. Get less than 5 stars, otherwise Steph will come knock on your door and berate you very aggressively.
And also ask for your vote.
But you're not up for election for another 3 years.
Sure.
So you got some time.
Should we talk about our amazing interview yesterday?
Oh, yes. Okay, so we did this amazing interview, which if you listen to the podcast, you will get to hear. We interviewed County Commissioner Kelly Semrad. Give her a round of applause. She's just lovely.
Yeah, so Kelly is the Orange County. See, we make politics fun. Kelly Semrad, Commissioner Semrad, is actually the county commissioner for this area right here, and she talked to us a lot about the culture of fear in the state and the pressure she's under, and really she just wants to bring the people clean water.
She wants to bring the people clean water. If you are at all uninterested in what is happening in our state with DeSantis and ICE and Alligator Alcatraz, we interviewed Kelly Semrad. She's someone who voted no to an agreement that is forcing us to bring ICE, to bring detainees down to Alligator Alcatraz. You can actually hear what it's like to defy Governor DeSantis and his cronies. So it was very interesting. You should have
There was some action on the school board last week, too.
There was some action. Steph, you want to tell us what happened on the school board?
So we did vote for the 6th year in a row to continue recognizing LGBTQ+ History and Awareness Month for October.
You filibustered against it, right?
Mostly everyone wanted to vote for it.
There was one person on the board that was not Stephanie. We talked about this before the show. I'm not going to name her. But those meetings are on YouTube, and if you want to look, or you want to read an article, you can see the board member who was not so thrilled about having an LGBTQ History Month. So, but yeah, that was a great day.
Yeah, we had some other great stuff last week too.
We did. There was, all right, who's heard of the book bans that are going on in Florida? Yeah, boo. Oh yeah, you've been very outspoken about it, but we actually, for the first time, had some good news. Steph, what happened this past week?
Yeah, there was a federal court that declared one of the state laws that wants to ban books unconstitutional.
We are very much for the First Amendment. We are for speaking our mind. So it's been, it's been a good week and on the book ban front. And actually, y'all will be discussing the books because they're not back on the shelves right now.
Well, no, they're not. So it's going to come before the board next Tuesday. So you can come to a school board meeting, but I cannot promise as many mics and that are here. But what's the whole mics?
Yeah, but you can come to the school board meeting. You can voice your approval for bringing these books back on the shelves, and you should do so. And talk to us after if you're interested in doing that. Anything else interesting in our week this past week that you thought was fun?
You were busy last weekend at your improv festival.
All right, when you said I was busy last weekend, that makes me sound uncomfortable. No, I did. I went to this improv festival called the Countdown Improv Festival. I did actual real improv. It was a lot of fun. Shared some pictures.
Wait, are you saying this isn't real improv?
No, this is... Babe, this is real improv. All right? Give Steph a round of applause. Policy and out visiting schools, and her dumb boyfriend is like, come do a comedy show we made for our podcast. So bless you for doing that. But no, the Countdown Improv Festival is a lot of fun, and I did a scene with another woman that was romantic, but that's a scene. It's a scene. Wait, what? Okay, look, I think that this audience understands improv, and that scene work is different from real life. Okay, you turned the audience against me so quickly, and I was honest with you about the scene I did. And okay, can we talk about something else? Does anyone have a question for a school board member?
Or a performer?
Or for a performer? Anything about book bands, about schools? Oh, yes, sir, please.
How romantic was the scene?
Here's a podcast listening audience. Someone did ask how romantic was the scene, and then there was a high five from the first row to the second row. A completely inappropriate high five, and I don't know why there's a school board. Yes, thanks, please.
I think I actually know something from when I used to go PTA at Howard. And my question is, have you spoken with her since this?
The question was, for those in the podcast audience, whether I've spoken to this woman. Yes, we were on an improv team together, so I stayed in
Improv team.
Her name is Liz. She's lovely, but not lovely in a romantic way. She's a Are you guys doing this light yet? Do we have the light?
You got 1 minute.
Here's Liz!
What if you guys recreated the scene?
Alright, so I would not want to put Steph on the spot for having to do someone asked her.
So Liz can do it, but I can't.
This has been wonderful. I think it's time that we get to our interview with Commissioner Kelly Semrad. Y'all have been so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited this afternoon. We have Kelly Semrad, Commissioner Semrad. She is our Orange County Commissioner for District 5, which is my district. So I am so happy that you're here today. Thanks for the time. I know you are also a mom, and so it's, it takes some coordination to give up some of your weekend time. So really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite too. And it feels good to be away on free from mama duty for an afternoon on the weekend.
Oh, perfect.
Well, we're happy to have you. And you're not a podcast listener, so this is kind of new territory for you a little bit.
I've never listened to a podcast yet.
I love
I've never
it.
been on a podcast. And so this is the first of the first for me.
Well, we're so happy to have you.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Well, I thought we would just start out because one of the things we really try to focus on is just helping people understand the different roles that our local elected people play in our communities. So just for those people who don't know, could you just tell us what is the county commission? What does a county commissioner do? And sort of how is that set up? I know people might have heard about like the city of Orlando mayor and kind of how do those interplay together?
Yes. So in Orange County, we've got 6 different districts, and they represent different regions of Orange County. And then we have a mayor. And our mayor is especially different because it's called a strong mayor system. So that means that he's the executive of the county, but he also sits on the legislative branch, which is an interesting setup and very rare in the state of Florida. But for the 6 districts, they each represent a different region. Mine is District 5, where I live, and it goes everywhere from College Park, Maitland, downtown Orlando, Baldwin Park, UCF area, Union Park, Colonial Town, all the way out to the Brevard County line with Bithlow, Christmas, and Wedgefield. It's the largest of all 6 districts. And I also think it's the most diverse in terms of needs because of the geography that it covers. But our job, as defined by our county constitution or our charter, is essentially to worry and to manage and to do things on public safety, first and foremost, fiduciary responsibility, and making sure that there's equal representation and distribution across your whole district, protecting our environment, and land use. That's essentially our job in a box. That's not what the job looks like today, but that is what we should be doing.
And if I could take just a sidebar for a second, because you brought up something interesting, the strong mayor, and is what's the opposite of that? Is that a weak mayor or a normal mayor? Like what? I don't want to get the terminology wrong.
It's a weak mayor system or just a mayor system. But essentially, so like if you look at the city of Orlando, I think that with Mayor Buddy Dyer, he's the executor. He sits on the legislative branch and he has veto power. So that's the ultimate strong mayor system. Okay. In Orange County, our mayor doesn't have the veto power, but essentially there's no, it's not traditional because in your civics classes, you learn that there should be a checks and balances, right? On each side. So when you've got somebody who's the executor sitting also on the legislative side and voting with the legislative side, it's an interesting setup.
Okay. So that was my question. So Mayor Demings, who is the Orange County mayor, does he help to write the policies or make, I don't know. I mean, I think policies in school board, I guess, but I guess he's voting on the different decisions, but then also is in charge of executing them or? So
he can, our Orange County mayor's job, a really big portion of that is to present a balanced budget every year. So that's a massive job of itself. It's more than, it's a giant budget that's what is being produced. But then also anybody on the board can draft policy. And so he can draft policy, but the mayor's office in Orange County also sets the agenda. So you can come up with the best policy that you think represents your district, but you have to be able to get it on the actual agenda. I'll say Mayor Demings has, in my experience, I've never been denied. You have to wait in a queue to get there, but with a strong mayor system, it could be blocked if they wanted to.
Okay, so the county commissioners couldn't vote to have a certain policy reviewed. He would have to decide it. He has that total power.
Yes, so you have to get everything agenda'd through the mayor's office, through the county administrator, which is under the mayor.
Okay. Oh, that's so interesting. Well, thank you for explaining that. I feel like a lot of people probably don't know what that means. So thank you.
Myself included up until maybe 30 seconds ago.
So thank you. So we can get into more of the day-to-day, but I know one of the top headlines that people have probably been hearing lately has to do with immigration and ICE, and it sounded like the county commission had kind of come out. We weren't really sure. We thought maybe they weren't going to go along with what ICE wanted, but then they did. So I don't know. I was just kind of wondering if you could share a little bit about what that was all about and what ultimately happened.
Yeah, so this is one of those things where, like, I described the job in a box, you know, and the things that are inside of that box today include a federal topic, a national topic, immigration, and how our governor, Ron DeSantis, has perceived the state of Florida's role in deporting immigrants. And that has been pushed down from Tallahassee all the way down to the counties and to municipalities where, and I also want to preface that Orange County has never violated our ICE agreement. We've never been out of compliance. We still are not out of compliance with it. But as of late, what Ron DeSantis expected was not only would our sheriff's department, which all of Orange County taxes pay money towards, would participate in the immigration, and our Florida State Highway Patrol would participate in it. But that also, our Orange County corrections officers would now drive or basically serve as an Uber to take immigrants from Orange County Jail that are here working, paying taxes, have not been arrested for anything else. There's no other criminal offense that they're there for. And that our Orange County corrections officers would drive those people to places like Alligator Alcatraz. And the terrible thing about that is that, one, these people haven't done anything wrong, but two, is that they're coming in from other counties as well, so it's not all Orange County. Orange County's jail is being used, which means that for Orange County taxpayers, we're paying federal taxes for immigration, but then our local money is going at a deficit of $80-some a day per person per day on an immigration charge in the jail. And then we're paying money to transport the people, and we're not getting reimbursed for any of that. Additionally, what's so disturbing is that when we talk about what is the job really of a county commissioner, public safety is number one. Our Orange County jail has a 200 deficit in our officers. So every single day they are working understaffed. They're working mandatory overtime. They are, and if they're fully staffed, it's because they're fully staffed because somebody's working mandatory overtime. They're paid low in comparison to market rate. And now these people who have worked mandatory overtime are working in a situation of not having the quantity of officers they need to guarantee their safety, inmate safety, and our community's safety. Now they're going to be driving across the state 500 miles round trip to take people to Alligator Alcatraz, which leaves us in a problem. So when you say, like, where are we in this? Orange County was not going to sign the addendum that would enable this. Our mayor, Demings, came out strong against it, and the board voted unanimously not to do it. And we received a letter from Attorney General Upmeyer saying, if you do not update this and allow your Orange County corrections officers to drive immigrants across the state after doing mandatory overtime and leaving your jail at a deficit with officers, we will remove you from office.
Oh my gosh. It seems like it's, well, I have a couple of questions. I guess the first thing I want to start with is, so the original agreement that Orange County was sort of, I guess, told they had to agree with was that if there was, that someone could get arrested on an immigrant could get arrested on a immigration charge, and then they would have to be held in our jails. So that was part of the agreement, and Orange County was doing that.
Yes, so Orange County was always doing that. Okay. Never in violation, and always has done that, by the way, if somebody came in with an immigration violation. Always has done that. And so
and we could talk about that piece of it, but in addition to that, now what you're saying is they were saying, now drive those people down to Alligator Alcatraz, just the horrible detention center in South Florida. And we're also, where I wonder, do people get due process there? Like, is there any oversight in the actual, immigration, how immigrants are treated? And I guess, is it a way to basically just kind of take them out of the oversight of Orange County? I mean, what do you think was behind that?
Well, what I think is behind it is a racist bigot who deems people who are not white and don't look like him as less than him and less than other white people. So I think that is what is behind it. But prior to this, you wouldn't have somebody sitting in Orange County Jail who had an immigration issue that had no other criminal offense.
Okay.
And so if we talk to our public defender, Melissa Vickers, and she'll draw a very clear line and say, when you've done something wrong, you're afforded due process. That's and or if you haven't done something wrong, but in our legal system, there's due process.
For everyone.
For everyone. It
Right.
doesn't matter, citizen or not, you're on American soil, you are afforded due process.
So important.
In this situation, this is where people are what others describe as disappearing. They get picked up for a traffic stop. They maybe rolled through a stop sign. Maybe they didn't do anything at all, and they just simply didn't look white enough. Maybe they looked too Hispanic, too Latina. And so they're picked up, and there's an issue with the paperwork, and they're, sent to Alligator Alcatraz.
So disturbing. So I think there's that just big piece of it that you're right on. And then there's this other piece that you're talking about, which is, we're focused on Orange County and the resources that are going to be diverted from keeping our own, county safe and people safe, really to be a transport service for these immigrants.
And this is millions of dollars. This isn't just, and when we talk about millions, I mean, just consider that right now we're $58 million short in our infrastructure to have safe streets and sidewalks. So we're looking for $58 million in the budget. So now consider that we're going to spend millions on moving immigrants. So one, to keep them in Orange County Jail when they haven't done anything wrong. To also then keep the surrounding counties immigrants who also haven't done anything wrong on our dollar, and now pay to transport them. And then think about the things that we're sacrificing. We can't fix potholes in roads. We can't fully fund our police. We can't pay our firemen a livable wage so that we can stop losing our firemen to surrounding counties through their recruitment. Our teachers are underpaid. Our animals in the animal control don't have an air conditioner. So we're talking about how are we best going to use our dollars? And right now we're being forced by the Attorney General of our state and our governor to use our dollars to support Donald Trump's far-right conservative agenda that represents, at its best, bigotry.
Right. And it certainly doesn't represent and reflect Orange County.
No.
I was just thinking, folks think a lot about tax dollars in terms of waste, fraud, and abuse, the ways that we're putting money in the system and it's going places inefficiently or there's malfeasance. And this makes me think of the cost of racism in being this other bucket, because as we execute these policies, these racist policies, and in particular this transportation agreement, it is costly, to your point. It's inefficient. It makes us less safe. It's costing our public services. You're talking about transportation, sidewalks, et cetera, on top of the fact that it is just cruel. And I wish, we've been battling this since our founding, but the ways in which I wish we had better ways to communicate that these policies that are racist, that they are obviously very gratifying to a certain portion of our population, but they cost us so much, both in terms of the moral cost, but the actual fiscal cost and the cost to our services. Anyway, I just had to say that because it's just thinking, hearing you list off all the things that this is taking from us, it must drive you bananas as someone who's trying to execute good policy and you're being pulled away to do X, Y, or Z as a waste of your time.
You have no idea. So I've got a community wedge field that lives out near the Brevard County line that does not have access to clean and affordable water. Their project to get clean and affordable water is $84 million. I can't get $84 million out of our budget. We have to talk about doing deed restrictions on those people's homes, where if they sell it, even the next owner will have to pay into fixing their water. We've got Bithlow that has known carcinogens in their water that they are currently consuming. One of the most challenged socioeconomic areas in our county right now is Bithlow. And then you talk about efficiency. That's efficiency, getting people access to clean water. But instead, we've got a governor who just blew $450 million of taxpayer money on alligator Alcatraz. And then you find out that he gave the contracts to his buddies.
Of course. Of course.
So it wasn't even an open bidding process. And at the same time, he's doging Orange County. But the things that he's doging us on are our bike trails for safety.
Oh my gosh.
Raised pedestrian walkways to slow cars down. Anything that might be hidden as DEI, that's what we're getting doged on. When we just have these really basic problems of getting somebody what should be a human right, access to clean and affordable water.
That's what I remember you running for office on, was sort of like this environmental piece and making sure that people had, like you said, clean water and you know, we were paying attention to our environment. And so I feel like, I don't know, did you maybe think you were going to be spending more of your time on that type of work? And then you find yourself doing work that's more related to, I think, like federal issues or just kind of responding to state threats?
Yeah, so I ran, one of my big platform issues was a passion for me, which was I want to stop urban sprawl. And I want to leave the wildlife that we get to share this land with more than a hallway to live in, which is the wildlife corridor. And I want to leave them with habitat to live in. And so those were the things that I thought I would be fighting, you know, wetland ordinances, bad development in bad areas, and great development in great areas. You know, that's what I thought we would be doing. That's part of our job, land use. What I never envisioned getting is a 16-year-old calling me, sobbing on the other line because she's an American citizen and both of her parents have been deported. That's what I never expected to get. I never expected to get phone calls from seniors who we have our fastest growing unhoused rate right now is our senior population. It's the silver wave. And to get them, to hear them calling and crying because there is nowhere for them to go to live that's affordable. So I didn't expect to find myself in those muddy waters. I expected that I was going to be taking on irresponsible growth and development, and that I was going to try to be working to get our local tourism economy to work for the people and not just private interests. And we've not been able to dedicate the true time on those important topics because we're fighting a authoritative form of government from the federal level to the state level down.
I want to back up if I can for a second. We're going back to, you know, Demings makes this statement that in defiance of DeSantis and the AG, and then, you know, this threat of removal comes down. The agreement does get signed, but you voted against it, correct? Talk to us about, because this is something Steph and I talk about and something Steph thinks about a lot, and I think about, you know, that voting no under threat of that removal, it's scary. I don't know. Tell me about your thought process.
Yeah. So first, I will start off by saying that I give all of my colleagues on the board and Mayor Demings great grace in the decision that they personally made for themselves. To be in a situation of being told that if you can vote yes, you can vote no, but if you don't vote how I tell you to, I will remove you from office. It scares you from so many different levels, right? Because it's like, well, one, I don't want to lose my job.
Right.
Two, to get a DeSantis appointee in my seat scares the bejesus out of me, you know, enough where maybe I should concede and take a knee to this authoritative style of government. Or maybe this is a hill that you stand on, you know, and maybe it's a hill that you die on and you're an elected official. But it's a decision. So I give great grace to my colleagues. I don't think that any of them made the wrong decision for them. For me personally, I knew walking in that day that I do not believe that this process is lawful. I do not believe that people are afforded due process, which I think is a constitutional violation. I also don't think that putting people in jail when they have done nothing wrong, they're paying taxes, they're working here, they have work papers to be here, is not right. So for me, that was a hill that I might have been removed from office, but I would be rather removed standing up for our local democracy, our state democracy, and our national democracy than to take a knee to something that, regardless of if you agree with the issue or you don't, to be told how you must vote or you will be removed. That is a fight that it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, MPA, I don't care who you are. If you're an American, you should be standing on the line, and that should be a fight that's worth all of us fighting for together, because that's wrong.
Well, thank you. Hearing that response honestly fills my heart and gives me goosebumps.
It gave me goosebumps too.
Yeah, I think, not just in Orange County, though, absolutely here and in this state, I think nationally, I want more elected officials to come in with that attitude. And to your point, absolutely grace, for the members who did not vote that way. And it is really tough, but thank you for taking that stand. I hope when people hear this to know that there are elected officials everywhere who are doing what they can to stand for what's right in an authoritarian state, an authoritarian country. It is greatly appreciated.
Oh, well, thank you. And, I think if there's ever an elected official who listens that's in a similar situation, I think to be put in a situation of basically you have a conflict of interest, because I'm motivated to keep my job. And if you tell me I have to vote this way or I will lose my job, I don't know how that individual does not have a conflict of interest in not representing their self-motive and not public interest. So I think that, that there's a legal pushback that's a coerced vote.
Absolutely, yes.
So I think that is something that I hope that people are going to jump on and pursue legal efforts on.
Yeah.
Well, I did notice a lot of the county commissioners and maybe even the mayor use the word voting under duress, use that language. And I think that's true, and I think another thing you mentioned that is hard to think about is if you take yourself out of it and if you are removed from office, how are you best representing your constituents? Because on the one hand, you need to stand up for democracy and you need to stand up for the law and follow the laws as they are written. But on the other hand, you want to represent your constituents well, and that your constituents will not be represented well if there is an appointee put in your place. So it's a very, very difficult position to find yourself in and to figure out what is the best response.
Yeah.
But I think it is scary to think that, elected officials just sort of say, okay, we'll do it. We don't want to be removed. And, the state just keeps taking more and more power. I mean, every time this happens, there's just a little bit more power that's ceded to the state. And it's really scary, and it's scary because we'll go back to ICE as a county commissioner, there's not really that much you can do with respect to, immigration laws and ICE. That's just not in your, you know what I mean? There's not that much you can do about it, but you're put in this position of having to stand up against it. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't really change it, but all you can do is say you're not going to follow this, overreach and unlawful use of law.
Yeah. I can't change it. Nothing I can do. The only thing that I have to be able to do is put my hat on my pillow at night and go to bed and know I did my best job trying to fight something that I believe is a form of fascism that is emerging. But everything you said about going through the motions, hey, if a DeSantis appointee is here, I'm going to lose my East Side rural communities. They're going to lose everything to developers. The people in Wedgefield, they'll never get access to clean water. Bithlo will always have carcinogens in their water. I don't believe that the people that would be appointed into these roles would have an interest for community. I think that they have an interest in money, in greed. And I think that they represent special interests, and particularly developers. So it was an impossible situation to be in. I'll tell you, I called my doctor the day before in tears and said, I think I got to do like a mental health check-in here. I'm not sleeping. It's been days since I've slept. I'm very short-tempered. I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm being threatened to be removed from my office. And she was, we talked for a long time because, again, this is not a natural situation in the United States of America. This is not natural. Yeah. So, and there's a lot that's on the line because it's not just, today we're talking about immigration, but we're also talking about, like things where we went to the voters' ballot box and we voted in Orange County on 10 charter amendments, our constitutional rights in Orange County. And what we see is that the Florida legislature is actively producing policy and law that undermines Orange County's voters. And these things that we passed in the ballot box, like protecting our parks and conservation land with almost 90%, that takes everybody. That takes Republicans, Democrats, and MPAs to share a value, to pass a rural boundary by 73%, to demand that developers show that when they rezone land, it doesn't cost us money in our taxes, that they're covering their infrastructure. To hear that we've got legislator at the state of Florida that is creating policy and law to undo all of what we voted for. I mean, essentially right now we're living in a state that has a government that is giving special interest veto power. And that should bother every single registered voter in the state of Florida. So right now, I think we're looking at either this is our new beginning. The state of Florida finds a platform to agree on together, and that's our new beginning, working together across party lines, or that effort dies and we take a knee to leadership that tells your elected officials how they must vote or they'll be removed. And not just, by the way, just for you to know, we weren't just threatened with being removed. We were threatened with being removed, being fined, being feed $5,000 a day.
Oh my gosh.
And being the strongest criminal and civil penalties against us being pursued. That could include jail time. That wasn't just a threat of removal of office.
I mean, if this is what our state can do, why even bother having elected officials? What's the point? If they can just tell you how to vote, unless you basically want to go to jail and pay fines, and I mean, what's the point? It is, and I think to your point, it's such a good one. It's not just about immigration. It's not just about, for me, it's not just about books. Like, this is about democracy. This is about local control. This is about voters having a voice in what they vote for, not just in the people they elect, but to your point, in the Constitution, in the amendments or charters, that they voted on. And that just being stripped away. And, maybe you agree with one issue today, but it's just as a whole, it's not democracy. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, local politics are really non-political. I mean, they're really not a party. Our local issues are not party politics. Our local issues are traffic jams. Our local issues are sidewalks, bicycle safety, trails, stormwater management, taking care of our land, being good stewards to it. Those are local politics. And those are things that we can all agree on, in terms of what our standard and our quality of life should look like. Those are things that you and your neighbor can all agree, and it doesn't matter what party you're from. And I think that's beautiful in local politics. And I think that's what's so sad right now, too, is that the fact that your local politics represent daily needs of working families, our seniors, our veterans, our youth. It represents everything. And when you have this authoritative style of government that's forcing national issues to be a local issue, it means that we really can't do our job that we were hired to do by the people.
Absolutely.
And that means that then nobody is doing that job. And our voters and our constituents and our community deserves to have working sidewalks, deserves to have clean access to water, deserves to have a tourism economy that doesn't give us just the lowest wages in the nation. But we can't focus on anything that we're hired to do by the people right now because we're being forced or coerced into doing the bidding of a governor who is overreaching and violating home rule.
Well, this is, I'm glad we're talking about this. It's very grave, as it should be. I mean, we are in grave times. For people listening, there's no silver bullet, especially here in Florida. But what can we be doing now in this time? How can we support elected officials, or how can we get ready for, 2026 or even earlier elections? I don't know. I'm curious your thoughts about how do we spread this kind of backbone and energy that you've shown and get other folks to help push back and resist.
Yeah, it does sound grave, but it shouldn't be all grave, because the exciting thing is that here locally in Orange County, we have 7 seats on our county commission that are all coming available at once. So that includes seat 2, District 2, District 3, District 4, District 6, 2 new districts, 7 and 8, and Orange County Mayor. And so what I think is really important that every single voter should be putting front and center when somebody knocks on their door to say, hey, can I get your support? Can I put my sign in your yard? I think that what has to be front and center is, how are you fighting to protect my home rule? That should be the most critical question that every single person is going to ask. So, and then what we have to do is we have to stock our Orange County Commission with a new face, and it's got to be a face that's ready to take on the state, to not be afraid to pursue a legal lawsuit, or not be afraid to say, hey, I know you're threatening to remove us, fine us, and jail us, but we're going to get a declaratory judgment action from a judge to tell us what is our best effort. When you say that we're failing to do our best effort for immigration, our best effort seems to keep our jail adequately staffed.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and to have a county commission say, we need that judge to weigh in before we can decide. Or you have now just put us in a place of a conflict of interest, and now none of us can vote on this issue. That has to be the front and center question coming up. How are you going to protect my home rule, my vote?
that, yeah.
Because right now the state is saying that our vote in our ballot box, it doesn't matter. So they're going to undo the rural boundary. They already vetoed Vision 2050, which was our comprehensive land use plan, $5 million of taxpayer money. They vetoed it.
And how long had you been working on that? How long had the county been working on that Vision 2050?
7 or 8 years since, it started under Teresa Jacobs, the effort, and went all the way through Demings. That's thousands of hours, thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. So, so I don't think it's all doom and gloom, because we're at a new beginning right now with 7 seats. There's only going to be 9 seats. That's a wipeout. So this is the time for a new beginning, and to really force candidates to take a position instead of, playing the political narrative that is just safe in the middle. But we need to know that we have a fighting chance. Otherwise, you're right. Why are we electing local people?
Why are we doing this to ourselves if it doesn't matter? Yeah, it's because it is stressful, and it's a lot of work, and we do it because we love it, and because we want to be doing it, and because and I'm speaking for you because I know you, and we've talked about it, we care so deeply about the issues and about the constituents that we represent, and about public education and about Orange County. But actually, so I do have a question for you. Do you ever think about working with other counties to build power?
Yes. So there's a coalition building right now to address this Senate Bill 180, which was this bill that passed that only one person voted against in the state of Florida, became state law, and it wasn't a bad bill. It was supposed to help communities build back stronger after hurricanes, but it used these words of more restrictive and burdensome policy. And developers basically took that to mean, well, if I don't like something, I'm just going to call it more burdensome and restrictive, and then I'm going to sue the county, and I'm going to win, and I'm going to get my way. And so right now that has impacted counties that tried to implement a mobility fee, which helps provide for multimodal transportation costs on developers instead of on taxpayers. They have said that stormwater management is too restrictive, wetland ordinances are too restrictive, our rural boundary that 73% of voters passed is too restrictive. So there is a coalition that's building in that regard across the whole state with state organizations like Thousand Friends of Florida, Sierra Club. Even the Republican Liberty Caucus filed a resolution to repeal Senate Bill 180. So, so there's fractures. There's even fractures in the party where the party is saying, hey, you're servicing developers. What about us? And they're frustrated by it. And a lot of it is coming out of our rural counties because those people are dependent upon keeping their family farms. And right now they're at risk of losing those. So there's fractures that are even happening within the party where I think that you can see some that are very clearly being looked at as representing only special interests.
And so it seems like that's kind of a common thread, right? It's nobody wants to be, or most people don't want a government that just represents and, helps special interests at the expense of everyday people.
And, also on the immigration issue, there are municipalities, the cities across Florida and some counties that are starting to bounce and vibe the legal findings or precedent that are from the other cases that are starting to roll out. So there's a coalition that is there as well. And interestingly enough, is that there's also some coalitions that are forming in the private sector because if you don't have a workforce to get in a construction ditch and dig with a shovel, or to show up and to clean your hotel rooms and to cook in your kitchens and to do the jobs that, quite frankly, there aren't many Americans signing up to do. That there are some private interests that are beginning to express concerns as well because it's impacting the labor force.
That was a question I asked Senator Smith when he came on was, are we starting to see private businesses and entities also having something to say about their workforce being depleted and disappeared and, taken away for doing really nothing wrong when they're doing the great work that keeps our state going.
Even the agriculture too, so there are those, and there are those organizations like the Farm Bureau, making expressed concern that we must keep our labor. So.
Okay. Well, that I don't know. That gives me hope. It gives me hope when I hear about coalitions across county lines and party lines, even, and organizational getting together. I think that is one of the only ways moving forward to help to protect home rule and protect the people in the state.
Yeah, I totally agree.
One of the things, talking about developers, I've thought about, and I'm switching gears here just a little bit, but in the same realm. Been thinking about in the last few years is home ownership and availability. And, I've gone from someone who has been I've drank the Kool-Aid of GIMBYism and building more. And I'm curious how you think about how we do want to develop and do want to expand both residential homes and commercial while keeping in check that we want to, we want to keep the character of our community the same, and we want environmental regulations kept in check. I'm curious about, as someone on the commission, about building more, about it growing, and maybe this is part of what was vetoed, but how we think about that building out while still, keeping our environment safe and keeping the community look the way we want it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So unfortunately, that was largely what Vision 2050 represented, was the smart ideology, sustainable growth, where you're going to take your density and you're going to put it into the urban core along the transit corridors so you can get cars off of the road, and along the job corridors so that people can move swiftly around. And then drawing a hard line with the rural boundary and saying, if you want to build out there, you got to have a supermajority vote because there's no sewer, there's no water lines, there's no money for roads, there's no schools. And so, we've got a perfect example way out there. It's the Grow. It was called an agri-hood. So it didn't make sense to put 2,000 homes anywhere else other than in the rural area. But that development is costing us $125 million of taxpayer money. So because they had to get reclaimed water, they had to get water, they had to get fire, they had to get police. So that's the cost of doing unsustainable growth. So like I drink the Yimby Kool-Aid too. Like we have to build smarter and better than we've ever done before because land is a scarce commodity. They're not making any more of it. In fact, if you believe that the sea water is rising, which I do, we're getting less land.
Right.
So we're flooding in ways we've never flooded. And the fact that our homeowners insurance has gone up across the state of Florida and us all like scratching our heads like, how come that happened? I'll tell you how come it happened is because you built in places that Mother Nature told you should not be building here. And so we flooded ourselves out. So we got to build where we're supposed to be building at the right density level. And to do that, you got to say no to developers because it's cheap for them to buy agricultural land out in the middle of nowhere and build. It's expensive for us because urban sprawl is expensive to support.
Yeah.
And we see that like right now where, we haven't raised the millage rate for our firemen, right, until just recently. So they can't keep their guys. They go through the training program because it's a great program and then they leave. Our police, so they can just go work at the city of Orlando and they make more money. So we're we're starting to really see the stress of of urban sprawl style development. The roads, talking about raising our sales tax. Well, it's because we have too many roads to support. It's unsustainable growth. So, to have a dysfunctional mass transit system, well, it's because of urban sprawl. We have dysfunctional growth. So that's another thing, 7 seats going up for election.
And it just
Let's get the people who drank the Kool-Aid who believe that we got to build in a sustainable, smart way. Otherwise, it's too expensive and it's not sustainable for any of us.
Right. And this is what we need your brain power focusing on. It's
Exactly.
what Orange County needs. And this is what we need our taxpayer money focusing on is how we can make these decisions to make Orange County just more livable and safe and healthy for everybody. So, yeah.
Well, and I think this is, you ran and got elected, so this stuff must excite you. It excites me to talk about how we can build do smart growth and build a bigger and better city. And yet, again, here you are having to deal with ICE agreements and all that bullshit when you should be doing the real work that you're excited to do and you were elected to do. And in theory, the voters want you to do. Not even in theory, voters actually want you to do that.
That's what you ran on.
That's what you ran on.
Yeah.
I just have to add on too. So all of these things that you're doing, the things that are part of your job or should be part of your job, the things you're dealing with that aren't part of your job as a county commissioner. But in addition to that, you also have a job separate. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that because sometimes I think people forget that when you're serving the public, most people have another job that they're also having to spend their time on. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I am a tourism professor at UCF. I've been there for maybe like 15 years. But I teach I specialize in tourist economies. That's actually why I ran. Yeah. I tell you, when I ran for office, this was my Hail Mary effort where I told my husband, there's no way that I want to bring my kids up in a place where there's no green space left, where we're flooding everywhere we go, and where there's no good paying jobs because we got the lowest wages in the whole economy. And I had that conversation with him, and I happened to be at a graduation, and I'm reading the most economic update on the wages in the nation. And I say, there's no way I'm not graduating my kids into this market. It's got to get better. And then all of a sudden I heard my student's name called who walked across the stage to get his degree. And I just thought, why am I okay about graduating anybody's child into the lowest wage economy? And so my other job is using tourism around the world to help alleviate poverty and to teach our next generation of hospitality managers. And what's really frustrating to me and why I really specifically ran is that I felt as though being an expert in tourism, doing tourism, coming from tourism economics, that I could maybe make a difference in terms of using tourism to help alleviate poverty in my own backyard, the way I have been able to be a part of teams that have done it around the world. And what's really frustrating is to get such pushback from that industry and to make claims about, the good programs that they do to help combat poverty or to, give back to the community. But quite frankly, your give back is not nearly enough, because all of that tourist development tax money that they collect in hotels, when a tourist spends a night in a hotel room, they collect money on that. It goes into a pot of money that is so restrictive. You can only do it, use it for convention center expansions or Camping World Stadium improvements. But that money is ours. And it's ours to the same degree that when you walk into Publix or you walk into Aldi's or Walgreens or wherever you buy anything from and you pay the tax on your dollar, that you get absolutely no say where that goes. And I don't know why we're collecting taxes in hotel rooms and then saying that the only people who get a say is the industry, is the special interest, because that should be funding our mass transit system. That should be funding our $58 million gap in public safety features for our communities. That is where we should be getting clean and affordable water from for the people in Wedgefield, because that tourists come here, they drink our water, they drive on our roads, they call our police, they call our fire, they end up in our jails, they consume just like us. So why do only the special interests get to decide where that public money goes? That money should be working for us, and that was my big thing. That's part of why I ran. That's what my other job is I advocate for that all around the world, is that the tourism is a public commodity that should be working for the public. It is not a only private gains industry. Yeah, businesses should be making money off of tourism, and I'm not saying that, but it's so backwards how things are done here. And the fact that we're using this public taxation model to collect TDT, and the rules of it are greater than a half a century year old, It just shows you how outdated it is. And you got great people like Carlos Guillermo Smith, Ana Escamani, that are fighting for it at the state level. But I think it's really I think that we're finally gonna crack that egg. And the reason I think we're gonna crack that egg is because I think that Governor DeSantis is gonna go after less property taxes, and you gotta get the taxes from somewhere. And I think it's gonna start coming from tourists. I just hope that we can get the money to use for our local community in ways that improve our quality of life.
Well, that's interesting. So if that does move forward and property taxes are cut, are you worried about that impact?
Yeah.
Of cutting property taxes? Because I'm as a school board member, I'm thinking, I don't know if I support cutting our property taxes. Yeah. We get 53% of our funding from property taxes.
That makes me drop F-bombs. Imagine. If that happens, the local government will be eliminated.
Oh my goodness.
And there's your local sheriff's office, your fire department, your schools, absolutely your garbage pickup, the management of your dump, the management of our sewer, the poop and the water, all of it is facing financial catastrophe.
It's almost as if it's part of a plan.
Yeah. For everything to go private services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Don't privatize our poop.
Please don't.
Is there anything else before we wrap up that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I think that there's something really interesting that is going to fly over people's heads, because when you say the word audit, it's not exciting. But on August 26th at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, it'll be on Orange TV in the 9 a.m. session. It'll be coming up, is Visit Orlando. And Visit Orlando is our destination marketing organization for Orlando. and they are an important part of getting tourists to come to Orlando. So they definitely have a purpose in our tourism economy, and we need them. But it's unfortunate because the comptroller, which is our county accountant, Phil Diamond, did an audit and found out that they misappropriated millions and millions and millions of our taxpayer money. And we are going to be talking about that on Tuesday, August 26th. And I think it's really important for people to understand that, again, that tourist development tax money, that they're getting $115 million a year.
A year.
Of how much of the tax? Like how much total is it?
30% of our total collection.
Wow.
And that, like when we're talking about we can't house our seniors, we can't get a comprehensive land use plan that'll work for us. We can't get mass transit that'll work for us. For $115 million, we are giving it to Visit Orlando to buy skybox tickets.
Oh my God.
To wine and dine, to do, to buy orange van tennis shoes at $1,500.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so and then even to take the biggest thing is that they took the interest off the top of our tourist development tax money, the TDT, and instead of replenishing it into public funds, they put it into their private account. So they have commingled also public and private funding. So it's interesting because these are our local dollars, and these are the issues that we should be addressing: is how do we develop internal controls to make sure we're protecting taxpayer money. And instead, we're trying to figure out how to Uber people to Alligator Alcatraz,
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So August 26th, 9 a.m.
In the 9 a.m. sessions, it'll probably come about 11-ish, but it'll be on Orange TV. And I think it's just important for people to really tune in and to, again, 7 seats coming up on that board. So if you've got people who are not voting to open up that contract because of the material concerns, is what the comptroller said, which is a big word in the world of accounting.
Yeah.
You have material concerns. If you're getting candidates knocking on your door, you should be saying, how are you going to defend my home rule?
Yeah.
And how are you going to make sure that, we grow in a sustainable, smart way? And by the way, how do you think, that $115 million should be spent?
Yeah.
And just a question about that. So is that decision about the TDT, is that a decision that the Orange County Commission can make, or is that something that have to be changed statutorily by our state lawmakers, or do we know?
So the use of TDT, being able to use it on other things than the big shiny buildings, that requires a legislative change at the state.
Got it.
Orange County willfully entered into this contract with Visit Orlando and did not even give themselves a material clause to get out unless it is a bilateral agreement. So at this point, on August 26th, we have to ask Visit Orlando to agree with us to open that contract, to lay down some internal controls to ensure that this doesn't keep happening.
Do you think they will agree to that?
And
And I say that because it sounds like there is some pressure at the state level to that maybe there's some movement. Do you think they might feel like, hey, if we want to keep receiving this money, we may need to be a bit more transparent or accountable? Like, do you think they feel that or not really?
Wow. I have no idea. And we met with Visit Orlando, and then when I sat down with them and I was like, hey, listen, your budget is greater than Visit Florida and Brand USA together.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
You get more money than the entire state of Florida DMO and the entire nation's DMO.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they were like, well, we do a very different cause. And I was like, I know that you have a purpose. I value it. I just don't think it's $115 million of a purpose. But do I think that they're going to agree? I think we need to Doge Visit Orlando, to really figure out what is, how come their website update is costing $1 million?
Oh my gosh.
Because
That's
if you do
crazy.
benchmark across the industry, that is really unheard of, $1 million, so they're not following procurement processes to get lowest
course not.
bids. Lots of stuff going on with that. So they're very defensive.
I can
They're very
imagine. Yeah.
defensive, that they really haven't done anything wrong, that everybody can always improve, but they've not really done these material concern. They don't have these material concern issues, and I think that they're hoping that if they leave the contract shut, something can pass at the state level to protect them more.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, this is some interesting behind the scenes. Thank you for sharing that information and your opinion, because I think Visit Orlando is often in the headlines and people might not know exactly what's going on with it, how much money they get. Especially, it's hard to know what $115 million really looks like, but when you're comparing it to what the state of Florida is getting, when you're comparing it to what sort of an equivalent national organization is getting.
The United States of America, that's incredible.
Yeah.
$115 million to market Orlando. And I also consider this, they also have private members, but those private members are like Universal Studios, Disney, so they're also paying membership that goes into it, but Visit Orlando is only getting about $8 million from private members. So their budget is rolling off our backs, but the people that they're promoting are like the Universals and the Disney. They do not need to use our public money to promote those projects.
Yeah.
They can promote themselves on their own penny. That's the big issue that we're having. You know? And yes, they do good things for small businesses too. I'm not, there are good people there and there's good intent there, but the purpose of that organization should not be $115 million of our taxpayer money.
Right. And I can guarantee you that if some of the private interests, Disney or Universal, if they're paying more money into Visit Orlando, they're sure going to want to see some more transparency when it's their money that's on the line, I bet. So Senator Smith had a really interesting proposal where he said basically for every dollar that's public, it should be matched by private donations. And I hope that one catches steam, because that would be great in Orange County. If we're paying, imagine what we could do if the private industry was kicking in funds too. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. It's been such a great conversation and so enlightening. Thank you for your fight.
Yeah,
we appreciate
thanks,
it.
Eddie. And just everybody really needs to remember, when somebody knocks on your door for their vote at Orange County Commission, they got to say, how are you defending my home rule, my vote in the ballot box?
I feel like Commissioner Semrad came here with a theme. She wanted to make sure we all understood, and we get it. And I think that's so important. Thank you for serving.
Welcome.
You are so smart. You are so well versed on really everything that comes before you. And I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate your candor, and I just appreciate you putting yourself out there. I know it's not easy. And I know, again, you have a job and you're a commissioner and you're a mom. We didn't even talk about that. So I know you have a lot going on, but it's people like you that I think, I just feel proud to have represent Orange County. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Eddie. And I share the same sentiments, my friend, because you're doing it all too, and fighting for our kids in public schools when, quite frankly, the public schools are just being decimated by bad policy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. All right.
Thanks a lot.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.